Welcome everybody to the library Help Me Cite It Right workshop. I said before, my name's Marla Turgeon. I'm your Sandburg Librarian, and Rebecca is helping us with she's our chat monitor today. If you have any questions, just save them until the end and we'll do a Q&A. Okay, so let's get started with what is plagiarism. Shoot, I'm sorry. Everything changed on me from yesterday, so it all looks different for me. Here we go. Okay, so here's the Oxford English Dictionary's definition of what plagiarism is. In other words, it's uncredited use, both intentional and unintentional, of somebody else's words or ideas. So, is it plagiarism if I borrow someone's ideas or if I use their actual words? The answer is both. You need to clearly quote and cite when you use someone else's words, and you need to do the same minus the quotes when you use their ideas. Understanding that adding to the world of scholarship is about building on another's previous work, and you need to respect those that came before you by not only citing their words, but also their ideas. Think of it this way. If a fact or idea you bring up in your paper turns out to be inaccurate or simply at odds with the teachings of the class, a citation can either help you make your argument or, at the very least, show your due diligence. So what does plagiarism look like? Well, it includes buying papers, finding papers on the internet, or using a friend's work. The college uses a plagiarism detection service called Turnitin. This service will find out if you've copied someone else's work. When you've been caught plagiarizing, it can result in a failure for the course and disciplinary action from the college. Second, you must use in-text citations along with a complete citation on your works cited page. And yes, if you don't cite previous work that you personally authored, it's considered self-plagiarism. The reason for this is, if you don't acknowledge that it's from past work, the reader believes it's a new and original idea. It's not ethical and is considered academic fraud. If you have information from a previous paper and you'd like to reuse it, make sure you ask your instructor about it. Third, you can't change a few words or the arrangement of the words in someone else's work and turn it in as your own. This is where learning to paraphrase comes in. Last, keep track of all sources you use as you do your research and when writing the paper, so you don't accidentally reuse someone else's words and forget where that information came from. Now that you know what plagiarism is, let's concentrate on how not to do it by learning to cite correctly. Whenever you use a quotation or paraphrase information from another work in your paper, it's essential that you use in-text citations. This is done by putting your citation in parentheses. MLA uses an author page number system for in-text citing. On the next few slides, I'm going to show you the basics, but please remember there are additional rules for MLA style. You'll need to go to the MLA style manual, the library's LibGuide, or the Purdue OWL for assistance. MLA in-text citations include the last name of the author, followed by the page number and closed in parentheses. Notice in the first example, there's not a comma between the name and the page number. In the example with two authors, use an and between authors' names, and again, there's no comma. In the example with three or more authors, use et al., which is the Latin abbreviation meaning and others. Some online sources will not have page numbers. In this case, simply use the author's name in parentheses. For example, if an article from one of the library's databases does not show a clear page number on your screen, then don't use it in your in-text citation, okay? So what are quotation marks and when should I use them? Quotations are the exact words of an author copied directly from a source. You should use quotes sparingly. Most of your paper really should be in your own words, but when you need to use them, make sure that you're using quotations. All quotations will require a formal citation. This includes in-text citing as well as the citation on your works cited page. Okay, so this slide has some examples of how quotations appear when you in-text cite. When you have more than one author, then follow the rules for multiple authors that we just went over. Okay, so a student writes a paper that includes the following passage. Go ahead and read it along with the highlighted part of the screenshot. Okay, so now I want to ask you a question. Go to the chat box. Again, Rebecca is inserting a poll there. Answer yes or no if you consider this plagiarism. It's anonymous. No one else is going to see your answer. Can everybody see the poll, I hope? Tell me if you think this is plagiarism or not, yes or no. I do have a hint. The answer has to do with the quotation marks. We got a maybe. Great. Thanks, guys. I love that. Okay, well, let's go on, and I will show you that, yes, this student did plagiarize. It's likely unintentional and possibly a simple typing error, but anytime passages are used verbatim, they must be placed within quotation marks. Note the correct way to cite this. The quotation marks should have been around the entire passage. Okay, so let's move on to paraphrasing now. Paraphrasing is a restatement in your own words of someone else's ideas to back up your opinions. Changing a few words of the original statement or stitching together numerous phrases from other authors is not considered paraphrasing. You need to change both the words and the sentence structure without changing the meaning. I want you guys to know that it's a misconception to believe that you're relying too much on other sources, though. It's actually to your advantage to use these quality sources to back up your ideas. Good paraphrasing makes the ideas of the source fit well into your paper. Just make sure you're not copying someone else's ideas, but adding to your thoughts as well. So here's some steps to help you with paraphrasing. First, read and reread the section until you fully understand the meaning. Now that you understand the meaning, try a quick rewrite. Check to make sure your version fits with your message. Make sure that you're using quotation marks around unique terms or phrases that you are borrowing from the source. And then record the source so you don't forget about it later. And then, of course, remember to use your in-text citation after the paraphrase. I can't push that one enough. So here is an example of how paraphrasing looks when you in-text cite. When you have more than one author, follow the rules for multiple authors that we went over before. Okay, question time again. I'm going to have you tell me if this is or isn't considered plagiarism. The top passage is the original text. Next is the student's rewrite of the text. I'm going to give you about 30 to 45 seconds to read these. Okay, now I want you to go to the chat box again. Rebecca has another poll. Please answer yes or no. Is this considered plagiarism? Remember, it's anonymous. Nobody else is going to see your answer. Yes or no, do you think this is considered plagiarism? Thank you. Great. Okay. Good job, guys. Because yes, this is plagiarized too. As you can see, the words the student used are crossed out in the example below. This student did not rewrite the sentence in their own words. All they did was substitute them with synonyms, which is not paraphrasing. So next is the signal phrase. It's a short phrase that introduces a quote or paraphrase. It's a signal to your reader that outside source is being used. We learned when using in-text citations, the citation is located at the end of the sentence with the author's name and page number, right? But if you refer to the author's name in a sentence, you do not have to include the author's name again as part of your in-text citation. So now I'm going to walk you through citing an article from one of Sandburg Library's databases. This is going to go pretty fast, and I'm not going to be able to tell you everything you need to know about MLA citations. There's just too much. The point here is to explain the process to you. So we start with the author. The name is usually found around the top of the article. In this case, and with most all Gale databases, the information you'll need is at the top of the page. The author is Joanne Margaret Hines Duzel. Now, I can't just copy the name right over. MLA requires the author's name to be inverted. So it will be written as Hines Duzel, comma, Joanne Margaret, and since there is only one author, we add a period to indicate that this part's done. The article's title comes next. This is going to be at the top of the document also. There are two things you should know about article titles. The first thing is when you copy them into a citation, you format them by MLA rules. Sometimes you could run across a title that is printed in all caps or all lowercase letters, but MLA requires it to be in title case. Title case is the technical term for capitalizing the first letters of the important words, as shown in the first bullet on this slide. The second thing you should know about article titles is that the title should be encased in quotation marks. In MLA, quotation marks indicate small works enclosed inside of a larger work. And this is an article that's held inside of a journal. Next, we close the title with a period, which goes inside the final quote. That's the rule, and it looks pretty too. Your citation so far should look like this. Hines Duzel, comma, Joanne Margaret, period, quotation mark, practice and motor learning, period, and then the other quotation mark. After the article information comes the journal title. This is where the article lives, or is what MLA calls the container. In this case, the container is a journal called The Physical Educator. Journals get their titles in italics because they're larger works and because MLA says so. No period after this title though, because journals don't just have titles in their section, so use a comma here. Slide. So here's the other things that journals have: volumes and issues and dates. Volumes have multiple issues. Just like TV shows have multiple episodes within a season, volumes are like seasons and their issues are like episodes. This article is from volume 59, issue 2. We note it in the citation as lowercase VOL period 59, comma, lowercase no period 2, comma. And in case you didn't notice, NO stands for the issue number. Now dates can get a little bit trickier. The article might just give you the year, it may give you a month in a year, or it may give you the season in the year. Whatever it supplies, the rule is to include as much of the information date as the source is giving you. In this case, we can see that the issue was published in spring 2002, so that's what we include. Notice how we're still working within this section, so we're using commas throughout. When a section is complete, that's where the period goes. The exception here, of course, is after abbreviations, the VOL and the NO. Now, if there were page numbers shown in this database, we would include those at this point. And depending on the paging, you would use either a P period for a single page or PP period for multiple pages, then a period at the end of the page numbers. But since there are no page numbers, we're just going to put a period after the date. This is how the citation looks at this point. So how's everybody doing? Are you guys still with me? Awesome. Great. Thanks, guys. Good. Great. Okay, so let's go on then. Now, at the end of the citation, we still need to indicate the database that the article came from. I found this one in Gale Academic One file. MLA states that the database is also a container, so the name should be in italics. Note that one file is one word. That is its actual brand name, so we leave it as is. And then put a comma after the database name. Now, if you found an article online, such as this one, you need to add the URL. Look for a link called permalink, stable link, or get link on the article page. These are links that won't change. Don't use that URL that you have in your browser. It won't work for your instructor later on, okay? Notice how the link below is in black and it is not underlined. Also exclude the HTTP or HTTPS from the URL. There's something else about this too. There's some articles that will have what is called a digital object identifier, or a DOI. If there's one present, use it instead of the permalink or the URL. And then you add a period at the end of this section. And ta-da! This is what your citation will look like. But there's more. MLA citations require a hanging indent. That means that the first line of each citation starts at the left margin and the subsequent lines are indented. Don't just use the tab key for this though. The spacing will be off. Instead, give it a hanging indent using your word processing software, okay? And don't forget to double space too. And your works cited list needs to be in alphabetical order. So if you don't know how to do those things, just ask a librarian. So here's some tips to prevent plagiarism. First, plan your paper. Start your research early. It's going to lead to less stress. Second, take notes and stay organized. Keep your sources together digitally or write them down. Third, when writing your paper, make sure you are being clear. Make sure you're transparent about what ideas are yours and what you're using from the source. Then cite it. Finally, the library has a product called LibGuides. These are online guides that can answer questions about citations, research, and other library stuff that you may need assistance with. Rebecca's going to put the link in our LibGuides to our LibGuides homepage in the chat. So go in there and bookmark it for future reference. Okay, you guys will want to use this down the road. Also remember that I'm here to help you with any questions you have with your citations. I'm available almost all the time. Send me an email, or we can do a Teams meeting if you'd like me to walk you through some citations. That's my job. I love doing this. I love nothing more than you guys reaching out to me. Okay. And the next page, what kind of librarian would I be without a works cited page, right? While we're here, I want to point out that there's different styles of citation in the world of academic writing. I only shared information about MLA style in this workshop, and it wasn't even too much about the MLA. There's a lot of rules in that, but make sure you're using the citation style your instructor is requiring, okay? So this is the end of the presentation, and now I'm ready to take any questions there might be. You should be able to unmute yourself if you want to, or you can type a question in the chat box. Rebecca, did we have any questions throughout the presenting?
Nope, not that I saw, just some stuff with the sign-in sheet. For those of you who had issues with the sign-in sheet, just go ahead and, I already put this in the chat, but email me at reaton@sandburg.edu. That's reaton@sandburg.edu. And then I'll just either add you manually or send you the link to the sign-in sheet. The professor didn't specify which format to use. Does it matter which one we use? Marley, do you want to take that one? I don't think it does, but you would know better.
It really kind of depends on the type of class that you're taking. It does depend on your instructor, on what they want. I have known some psychology instructors that are, that generally are straight APA. Some science instructors that want you to use APA. I actually knew a speech instructor that wanted you to use APA. So that's the other big type of style that people generally use. I know they use that for nursing, things like that, but MLA is generally for like your English papers. It really depends on what your instructor wants though. So I would always go back to the instructor and ask them specifically what they want you to use.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, I see MLA, but once in a while you'll see APA too.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you'll find that in the syllabus. So
Yes.
I'd look there first, and then like Marla said, reach out to the instructor if they don't specify.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good point. Good point, Rebecca. Did that help with your question, Courtney, I hope? Anybody else?
Yes, it helped. I'm trying to type back and it's being silly. But yes, that helped. Thank you.
Okay, good, good. Great. Anybody else have any other questions? Oh, the definition of signal phrase. Let's go back to that. We'll just pop on back to that one. Oh, I went too far. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so it's a short phrase that introduces a quote or a paraphrase. Like I said, it's a signal to your reader that an outside source is being used. So like this one down here in these examples, I have the author's name Roth at the very beginning of the sentence, and then the page number in parentheses at the end with the period behind it. That was for a quotation. So what this tells your instructor is that an author named Roth did this quote, and it can be found on page 184 of his book. The same thing with paraphrases. You can use the author's name in here to paraphrase the quote that you were looking at, or the paragraph, the passage that you were looking at, but let them know that it came from that author, and then what page of the book that the idea came from too. Is there anything you have to add, Rebecca? On signal phrases? Okay, great.
No, that was perfect.
Okay, cool. Good. Any other questions out there? Rebecca, do you have anything to add?
Nope. I would just second that if you guys want to make sure that you open that LibGuides link and bookmark it, it's going to be very helpful for you going forward. I know Marla didn't really have time to touch on it too much, but there are several guides out there that will help you kickstart your research process. It'll help you stay organized. It'll help you with searching our databases and our catalog. Lots of good stuff. Like she said, there are different citation styles out there. We do have guides specifically for APA and MLA, and hopefully a Chicago style forthcoming if you are in like Fred Meisel's class or something like that. That's most generally used for history. But again, lots of good stuff out there, and I would just recommend bookmarking it. And then if you don't find a topic that you need, go ahead and shoot Marla an email, and she would be more than happy to explore creating a new guide for you too.
You betcha. You bet. No problem. Okay. Well, like I said, if you guys need anything, get a hold of us. We're here to help, okay?